Welcome to the reaction show, Unadilla. And so I have to say what the thumbnail. Yes, I'm disappointed in my boy Roczen. I'm a huge Roczen fan. I'm a huge Webb fan. And man, it makes me just somewhat believe that these guys are just back to racing, not necessarily because they want to, but just because they need to solidify themselves to not go to the LCQ for the Super Motocross Championship, and then they can make some more money. Yeah, is that kind of a biased opinion? Yeah, possibly. But when you have a caliber rider of Ken Roczen go 7-6 for 7th overall, and then possibly Webb might be hurt. He finished 35th that second moto. So, but hey, leave a comment and I will get to some of the best comments at the end of the show. And with that, with Webb crashing, I don't know if he got hit by another motorcycle or what, but that little scenario outside of that 180 around that tree, there was a lot of weird ruts there that you saw a lot of riders end up going down. Tom Viall being one where he went, whoa, left, right, tang slapper, fishtail, then went down. There's a lot of fishtailing going on. Same thing with Hymas. But backing up to the Webb incident, he is seen getting up and pointing at the flaggers, telling them to get in the middle of the track, get in the middle of the track. And yes, you guys know that I'm a huge advocate for the sport. However, there's just a lot of little itty bitty mistakes that seem to happen, and a lot of them deal with flaggers. So yes, I know I've talked to the guys at Hands with MX Sports. They're working on it. However, just, you want to see some forward momentum, and especially a rider being in the heat of the moment, especially if they're injured, they're not thinking clearly. Humans are not, they're kind of illogical beings when they are subjected to a stressful event, right? They plain and simple. They just don't think logically. So I'd say that racing motorcycles is a stressful environment. Oh, effing absolutely. I hope he didn't bust his hand again, but you almost want to think like, oh, dang it, he busted his hand at a race he didn't have to be to. Almost thinking, did he actually have to be there? Again, because that Super Motocross playoff, the big purse money comes at those last 3 races. You don't want to every race have to go to the LCQ because you're going to have a shitty gate pick. So it's very important that you stay inside the top 20. And that is my point with Webb showing up and even Roczen showing up. Roczen, yes, he was a banger out there the second moto. Same thing with Webb. You know that these guys are racers. So eventually they're not going to want to be seen as an 8th place guy. So they both were bussing out front the beginning of Moto 2. And Unadilla is one of those tracks that just, it bites you. It bites you if you try to override it. It bit a lot of guy, including Hymas. Dude, by the way, Hymas looked like Trey Kennard out there with the red handguards and the retro gear. Looked awesome. And him being 2 seconds a lap faster than every SOB for qualifying. Here, let me just bring that up here so you can see how much faster he was in qualifying. Boom, 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 boom. Oh gosh. Okay. Zoom, zoom, zoom. No. It's Control Plus, guys, by the way. It's not Alt Plus. Boom, boom, boom. Chase Hymas, 213. Boom to 215. Basically 2 seconds a lap faster. And I interviewed this kid at Thunder Valley, and I told him that he's got everything up for grabs in order to win. And I said that he was going to be the guy to beat Deegan, and he eventually beat Deegan. However, he just can't seem to put it all together. And we're going to see more of Hymas. He's just has some growing pains going on right now with what happened with his ankle. And you've got an individual that reminds me so much of Jason Lawrence sometimes with his little innuendos, like on the podium. Deegan points out there, he's like, yeah, so, you got to be there the whole 35 minutes in order to win. And it was just a dig at Hymas, along with whatever was on social media at some sort of a club, saying that Hymas sucked. Yeah, that was distasteful, but it wasn't even the Deegans that did that. It was somebody that had the message come over to them and was bought. And of course, they're going to take the opportunity to potentially film it and put it on social media, because we all know social media is not accurate most of the time. But oh yeah, see, you guys are thinking that Webb busted his hand again or what? I don't actually know. I haven't spoken with anybody. It looks as if it doesn't look good. He pulled off the track. He got up from racing and he was still inside points contention, but he ended up finishing 35th, which is a darn issue. Absolutely effing issue, which is a problem. But again, goes back to the whole super motocross playoffs. There's a lot of races going on here. And if we're talking about the Honda, so here, let me just jump real quick into the Hondas. Hymas should have won both motos with how fast he was going. Should have freaking won both motos. I've looked at the replay. I will probably cover it in this week's video, but I am somewhat up in the air of like, what in the world freaking happened? Because you want to, when in doubt, hold the WF open, but his back wheel was off the ground. So really, potentially, the only thing he could have done was potentially get off the front brake, but that front wheel ended up looking like it hit another rut and went sideways, and then it instantly just reacted to inertia and took him down incredibly hard, and unfortunately ended up on the bottom of the bike. And him pulling out of Moto 2 is just like, dang it, dude, because these kids live off of confidence. They live off of, you're only as good as your last race. And we would have seen a completely different rider from Deegan and also Hymas the rest of the season if Hymas was able to go 1-1 here. Deegan has a 70-point lead, which is phenomenal. So a hand pat on the back, clap, golf clap for that kid, because he is absolutely has earned it, and he's going to load up the championship. And, this being race 9 of 11, it sort of seems like the races are already done with the 450s. Sexton going out there and winning by 13 to 15 seconds. Hunter, the first moto, showed everybody that you get a good start, and there was a new and improved Hunter. He was very aggressive, and everyone's talking about it's this 2025 Honda. Maybe that was it, because the old 2024 Hondas bit Joe in the butt and bit Hymas in the butt. So yeah, maybe it is the 2025 Honda. Maybe it is just that much better, but I tend to think that that's more marketing than anything. That bike it was running well, but I really think it had more to do with Hunter taking some time off and gritting his teeth and wanting to freaking beat Sexton. And it ended up being a wash, because you go 1-2, same points as somebody going 2-1. Therefore, we're down to 2 more races. There's not much else to say about that deal, besides he fought for it. He went back and forth, and usually he let Sexton bully him and get around him. But Hunter, even through Supercross, has not been somebody that really lets somebody get away with something. And then when he has his little brother there, Jet, they both tag team it, and it's a good dynamic, and it's a bummer that Jet's not here. And it makes me wonder, what would the season have turned out to be if Jet was still involved, but I was wanting it to be a little bit more exciting. It was, a lack of better terms, a little bit of yawner, man, where we've got some good riders that showed up with Roczen and Webb, and that was somewhat disappointing, because those guys are not supposed to be riding back in 7th, 8th place, but I get it. It takes a little while. You can't jump into a season as well when guys are going full blown, but I don't know. We've seen Kenny do that before, but it was sort of at the beginning of the season last year. So I don't know how I feel about that. I'm ready for the super motocross races to start, because there is some new excitement involved, right? There's some new excitement involved. That's why I really would like the whole series to potentially do a super motocross round, like in the middle of motocross or something. So it's like, oh, boom, here's one of the playoffs. Boom, here you go. And then another one. I think that would be a fun dynamic to switch it up for everybody, because it brings some excitement, because we've always talked about what is the hype between what is the Super Bowl and it's usually A1, right? The finale, especially in motocross at Utah, ends up seeming kind of like, okay, cool, it's over with. Now everyone can take a break, because usually it is a slim pickings field because somebody or multiple guys are injured. So how do you prevent that happening? But anyway, this is the reaction to the race. And Tom Viall missing out on making some points that first moto really bums me out as well, because that's another guy that you guys know that I'm a big fan of. And him getting third that second moto just seemed as if it was a missed opportunity that first moto. And Deegan, my opinion on what happened to Deegan, especially that second moto, he's gone, all right, Hymas is out. Hymas is out. Tom Viall is out. Why do I need to catch Levi? I beat him every other moto pretty much this entire season. I don't need to beat him. That shows maturity. But he got close, but he ended up letting Levi win by 13 seconds or so. But there was a moment there where Deegan was on fire. And the Deegan that I like to watch is that Deegan that's just about ready to do a Tony Hawk 1080 because he's trying so effing hard. That is the guy I like to see. So in order for us to see this Deegan pushing the limits, well, you got to have the likes of Tom Viall and Hymas in front of him. So he's got somebody to chase. He knows he's got a 70-point lead. It's in the bag. He can phone it in as much as he wants, and he's the champion. As a viewer, I want to see that close racing down to the wire. So at this point, I'm ready for the super motocross stuff. But here, I want to tell you guys about Coach Rob. He's got a new sweat profile analysis that helps set up what your electrolytes should be. And this is something that I have done. And I personally love the Energy Fuel, just the standard, where it's 242 calories, where it's a duration of 1 to 3 hours, moderate to high intensity. This stuff is awesome. No caffeine. We all know I don't need any caffeine. I get enough of that stuff from, elsewhere. But this is something you guys should check out at CoachRobStore.com. And before I start answering some questions here, Sexton's in control of the championship. Levi is finally showing his worth. And the Pro Circuit Kawasaki guys with Marchbanks now on there and Ty, they're somewhat struggling. But the Honda guys in the 250 class seem to be struggling way more, which is unfortunate, and with Ken qualifying 5th and Webb qualifying 10th and then pretty much racing around there was just plain disappointing. So for the lack of me being a nihilistic person for the reaction show, I want to know what you guys think, because we can see more racing. So Chris says that the throttle, his thumb buckled bigger than my throttle thumb buckle was bigger than knuckle. All right, buddy. So Family Tube says, wasn't Kenny supposed to be on a 250? Yeah, he's going to be on 250 for Ironman. He was coming back for Unadilla to make some points for the Super Motocross Championship. He needed to compete in his class to solidify himself in the top 20 so he doesn't have to go to the LCQ and get a crappy gate pick. He can then do some of the qualifying there and go from there. Dun, dun, dun. And Sexton with an asterisk. I don't know what anyone says. Jet won title with everyone there. Chase only wins titles when others aren't there, just like Chad Reed. Ow, dude, that's an ouch one right there, because just what Deegan said on the podium is you have to be there. You have to be there the whole 35 minutes, right? There is the only asterisk I've ever seen in the sport was the whole pandemic, where it was a smaller series and we were going to the same races a few different times and some riders weren't able to make it there. This, to me, Sexton is a fast enough guy to win. And to be honest, Sexton is the guy that pushes the envelope more and lands on his head more than Jet. So for him not being injured, because we all know that this guy should have a pedigree of a resume that has 5 or 6 more wins, especially in Supercross, because he throws his ass on the ground. So for me, no asterisk involved. Sexton deserved everything that he has gotten. And it's a long series. That's part of it. You got to be fit enough to sustain the punishment that is motorcycle racing. It's not just travel. It's the crashes that you got to come back from. So, but I hear what you're saying, right? Because again, we want to see good racing. We want to see everybody healthy and racing to their full potential. Frank says that hopefully Webb is all right. Makes me wonder how Tomac and Jet can come back. Yeah, dude, these guys come back so fast. I know that there is stem cells. There's all sorts of different stuff. There's what is the ice chamber vacuums? Like there's so much more. There's the lasers to help. Yeah, these guys have so much more resources. It's not that they are just phenoms, like they're just genetically different than everybody. Like in the head, yeah, because they're crazy SOBs, but they just have more resources and money and access to specific doctors that can help them heal faster legally, right? Do they choose to potentially go other routes? I don't know, possibly. That's probably something that I would do if you could do that, because there's stuff out there that makes you heal way faster, right? Dun, dun, dun. Do you think Deegan might have cooked himself by training too much over the break where everyone else had a rest? No, not at all. No, that is a good question, Off-Road Dad, but I don't. Deegan he's just enjoying it. He's enjoying being the man, being 70 points ahead of everybody. Winning that first moto, second moto, that is a solid second. Sure, give Levi his win. But if Deegan needed to, we would see Deegan win or put his ass on the ground, plain and simple. But he didn't, because he's wanting to cash that check from Yamaha, because his dad probably had them sign a fairly hefty bonus deal with those guys. So, and Family Tube is saying, hope Joe is okay. That slam looked like a 30-mile-an-hour to flat ground. Yeah, that was a weird one. And I am going to say that Joe, I believe, separated his shoulder, right? If you guys caught the new show this week, Alpine Star is coming out with an airbag system where it's essentially the chest protector that doesn't have any shoulder protection, so you can move around and everything. But then when that sucker goes off, blocks these guys. So now you don't have to worry as much about collarbones being broken, because you're still okay. Asterisks here. These are quotations. Got to have the quotations, because who knows what I'm about to say. Less chance of breaking your collarbone, and especially the AC joints. When you have no protection over here, it's very easy to push those shoulders down and pop those collarbones up. To me, that's what happened to Joe. And sometimes breaking your collarbone is easier than the AC deal, because AC joints have to have surgery to have ligaments tied around, lift that sucker back into place, and then you can't lift anything for 6 months. A plate, boom, you can be back like Cody Schock next weekend and, fighting for a top 5, which is amazing. Not recommended orthopedically, but if you've got your job on the line with a paycheck, yeah, you're going to try just a little bit harder. And that is one of the things where I would assume that these guys will be using those for sure, because we saw stakes on the side of the track too. And that was sort of an interesting thing too, because we normally don't see, there's been issues with that stuff. At least no, it was rebar a couple of years ago. That was some issues. Even the stakes, the wooden stakes, you could land on those. But if you had that airbag system, right, boom, you wouldn't have that potential issue with your kidneys or anything of that matter. The only problem there is there's probably a hefty price tag when that airbag goes off. Now you're talking like a $200 recharge potentially. I don't know. Dun, dun, dun. So here, let me look for some other comments here, and then all right, Eli should wait till Super Motocross. Yeah, he probably should. In my opinion, he definitely should, Brian. That is the only reason why you'd come back is if you're getting paid to come back. Otherwise, you're just focusing on a hybrid Supercross track there at Cortez, Colorado, and you're coming to take everybody's money, right? We know Tomac, and Tomac is one of those dudes where you don't want to get in a gunfight with, or even play poker with, because you're never going to be able to tell if what his hand is, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see something like him not come out and race. And could you imagine if Zach Osborne rode and came out and was racing for Club MX? He said he wasn't ready. But with a track like that was taking guys out left and right, yeah, it might have not been the best showing per se, but got to give it up to the track crew as well, because that track was underwater. I would have hated being there for press day. All the press people, hats off to you guys as well for staying out there in the mud boots and everything. And for the next race, or for Saturday, that track was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Oh, Moto Fan says, I miss watching these live shows. Yeah, dude. These live shows are, what I'll say it because I thought it. They tickle me pink. Like, these is nice. It's good interaction. Love the sport. Love you guys. It's just good stuff. And we talk about racing. We just love freaking racing. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, Family Tube. Have you ever crashed into a tough block? Many times. Many times. Sometimes I feel like all I knew how to do was crash. So yeah, tough blocks are awful. Absolutely awful. Some of the best tough blocks I've seen in an advancement with the sport was at, the Germany Supercross last year. Those things were freaking amazing. And that's something that, for safety wise, we should definitely have those. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Hey, Johnny, I just hopped on. Is there any actual injury status on Joe and Cooper official statements? No, I've checked. They don't have anything on their Instagrams or anything. And I haven't said text messages to anybody because I don't want to bug them. Just plain and simple, don't want to bug them. We will see potential injury for Cooper's hand. And Joe, I'm speculating that it is an AC joint. He was seen last with a sling. That is not good. Either collarbone or it's an AC joint here. Costco cookies tonight. No, I'm actually trying to slow down a little bit on the Costco cookies, to be honest. It's pretty bad when you wake up from a sugar high every morning and you're kind of going like, ah. So I'm trying to take a little bit of break on there, but yeah, right. So no Costco cookies tonight. My max has been 8 cookies. That's a problem, right? So the problem, or actually, what's the whole saying? You got to realize you have a problem before you could change it, right? And I had a problem with the Costco cookies. Not saying I don't buy them, man. Every time I go to Costco, just go like, dude, I got a membership for Costco. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, dude, Brian, I believe Vital rumor has it that Deegan will be on a 450 for 2025. Dude, this guy should hold out for 2026 for the big bucks for Ducati. That's what he should do. All in on Ducati. Triumph. Did they finish 3rd overall? Did they in fact finish 3rd overall? Ooh, Ethereum. Sorry, got the little trades going up here. Is freaking flying here. All right, let me look at this and show official results. Yeah, Triumph finally. Swole. Here, let me zoom that in again for you guys as well. Keep hitting Alt. Dude, boom, boom, boom with a 6-4. Wow, 3rd overall. Marchbanks, not bad. 34 points. 3-way tie for the podium, right? Again, yeah, not to be Debbie Downer, but this is where I kind of have an issue with the points, right? Because here's a 2-way tie for 1st and 2nd. Same thing for the 450 class, and a 3-way tie for 3rd. And, second moto breaks the tie, but there's no bonuses for overall. And truthfully, I think when there's a tie like this, there should be bonuses for winning and whatsoever, because yeah, the only thing that helps here is you get prize money and then you get your bonus money from your team, but championship wise does nothing, right? So yeah, but anyway, hats off to Swole. He has had some struggles over the year, and Triumph, out of the two, between Joey Savacci and Swole, I would have bet money that Savacci was going to be the guy to get the podium, not Swole. But same thing, he would have had Triumph's first podium in Supercross if he didn't do some silly stuff and run into riders and take him out while he was on the podium, right? I would say that my body felt like diabetes coming. I would wake up from fatigue and body. Yeah, dude, all that processed food is awful. I honestly got started on, they're called factor meals, right? Because daddy daycare over here, my wife doesn't get home till late because being a vet, a little personal information. And so I got tired of cooking dinner. So spend a couple $100 a week with some pre-made meals, and it's been awesome. My training has improved. My VO2 max is up to 60, and so it's going really, really, really well. Okay, so Brian here, dun, dun, dun. Brian, I'll have another one of your comments. Do you think Deegan jumping on 450 to follow in Jet's footsteps is a mistake? Jumping to a 450 and falling flat would be a disaster. No, the guy has enough good people around him that no matter the trials and tribulations, he's going to be able to overcome them. Ever since the bike claim and everything, and especially with keyboard warriors, because he's got so many people that either love him or hate him in a weird way. Everybody that hates him loves him, and they still buy his merch and they help him with his business. That would not be a bad mood. If this happens, it could be a PR phenom for him to do that. Everyone will be jumping on that boat for him and want to see him either fail or do well. For me, I think it's too soon. Personally, I think it's too soon. I think he should stay in the 250 class, win some more championships, and again, wait for the big paycheck for Ducati. Is Gas done, or are they still around? They're cutting funding, is it? So they'll still be around in some capacity, but they're cutting a lot of funding for racing. So we probably won't see a lot of teams there, but you'll still be able to buy gases, and they'll probably just be a year old KTM, just with red plastic, is where I believe this is going. Same thing with Suzuki. They'll take all that money, and then you're left with an affordable motorcycle, but nobody's going to want to ride it because there's no contingency and there's no teams and pieces and parts. You're better off buying a newer bike. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm trying to, Frank Built, that is a good point. I'm doing something different. Innovation is always the keys to success, even if it ends up taking one step back at a time before. I figured with the live shows, I need to be interacting with you guys a little bit more. It's hard to do it right when I'm in the midst of it, because then I start reading and I'm not talking with you guys. But afterwards, it's awesome to do their... Do I think there's going to be any surprise retirements this year? The only surprise retirement would be Tomac. And I've been the guy that's been saying Tomac is retiring for 3 years now. So that would be a surprise to me. But I really think that he's got nothing better to do right now, and he still has fire under his belly. He championship was stolen from him because of an Achilles tendon tear. And yeah, that was a weird one. That was a tough one to swallow, and I think it was a tough one to swallow for him. So he wants to come be a super motocross champion and go race and try to win a championship at least one more year. Ken Roczen, I think, is probably getting close to retirement as well, where we'll see him start doing some more World Supercross stuff and grabbing some money here. Yeah, not giving adequate instructions to the day workers and the flaggers. That's yeah, I agree. We need to sit down and have an info. Let me make the video, right? Here's an idea. So you show up and you want your lunch and you want your ticket to go to the races. But beforehand, here's that informational video, the do's and don'ts. And you'll have Johnny come up there. Don't stand in the middle of the track and get run over. Don't stand on the bottom of a landing and watch a collision happen. Don't watch the race and not wave the flag. Don't wave the wrong flag, right? But be where you can be seen on the track, because you're trying to protect the riders that are down. It doesn't seem like too hard of a concept to follow. However, we've seen time and time again where it becomes somewhat of an issue. So here, last comment, just randomly. I'll bet Deegan stays on the 250 Supercross season, and if he wins, then he'll bump up to the 450 for outdoors. Yeah, no, I could see that as a learning deal. But Star Yamaha is probably going to want to try to keep him for as long as freaking possible. As long as possible. But for some reason, I just have this intuition of this whole Ducati thing come to fruition. So anyway, and okay, last one. Kenny was saying he wants Motocross of Nations. Yeah, for Germany, give it to him. Okay. There was one more. What was Cooper Webb saying to the flagger? Who knows what he was saying to the flagger, but I can only imagine that it's stuff that I will get demonetized if I say it. It just was like the song, get out of the way or get in the way, wave. I'm going to get hurt. Anyway, till next time, you guys, appreciate every single one of you. Hit that subscribe button and notification icon. It really does help the channel out. It does, right? The whole algorithm, it just explodes with the AI and the computer. Yeah, this should be seen to more people. So hit that share button too. Well, da 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 da, whoa, 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 da 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 da.